Alright guys, welcome back to Urge. Moving on the Subclass Series into the next subclass, which is the Circle of Spores Druid.
Ooh.
So, if you're new to the channel or to the Subclass Series, what we're going to do is we're going to go through all the abilities gained in this subclass, and then we're going to rate it based on its roleplay value, its combat value, and its overall class synergy, based on how the abilities gained in this subclass improve on the base class abilities. Also, we are doing a giveaway right now, guys. So, if you want to be entered in that, please subscribe to the channel, like the video, make sure you hit that bell notification so you know when we announce the winner if you won or not.
Right.
But then also comment down below. We'll be giving away at least 2 books, possibly more. We'll determine once we hit the release of the new book. But without any further ado, we're going to jump straight into this subclass. Alex, hit it off.
Yes. We're in a casting one, so I get to do spells. Woo! So you get Chill Touch Cantrip as well as a free cantrip as part of this subclass. But the actual spell list you do get: Blindness, Deafness, Gentle Repose, Animate Dead, Gaseous Form, Blight, Confusion, Cloud Kill, and Contagion. And all those do fit the theme of, you think Circle of Spores, mushrooms, poisonous fumes, and things. Most of those kind of fit into the flavor pretty well. At level 2, you get not one, but 2 abilities. Level 2. There
you go.
How about that? First one you get is Halo of Spores. So you are surrounded at all times by invisible necrotic spores that are harmless unless you unleash them on a nearby creature. When a creature you can see moves within 10 feet of you or starts their turn there, you can use your reaction to do 1d4 necrotic damage to that creature unless they succeed on a Constitution saving throw. It is an all or nothing save against your spell save DC. This damage does scale up to a d6 at level 6, d8 at level 10, and then a d10 at level 14. Easy enough.
Yes.
Also, you get Symbiotic Entity. So as an action, you can expend a use of your wild shape to awaken the spores from your Halo of Spores ability. Rather than transforming into a beast form, you gain 4 temporary hit points for each level you have in the Druid class. With this feature is active, you gain the following benefits. When you deal your Halo of Spores damage, roll the damage die a second time and add it to the roll. So it becomes 1d4, becomes 2d4, then 2d6, 2d8, 2d10. Also, your melee weapon attacks deal an extra 1d6 poison damage to any target they hit. This benefit lasts for 10 minutes until you lose all the temporary hit points, or until you lose your wild shape again for another reason, whether it's to pop this again or to actually use the wild shape to transform into something else.
Then at level 6, we have Fungal Infestation.
Indeed.
You gain the ability to animate recently deceased corpses. If a beast or humanoid that is small or medium dies within 10 feet of you, you can use your reaction to animate it, causing it to stand up with 1 hit point. It's going to use the zombie stat block from the Monster Manual, and it lasts for 1 hour, after which time it collapses and dies. The zombie takes its turn immediately after your turn when it comes to combat, and it takes mental commands from you, and the only action it can take is the attack action, making 1 melee attack. And you can use a number of times equal to your Wisdom modifier, and you gain your uses on a long rest. So you get to make a little zombie buddy.
Yeah.
Which, it is what it is. Level 10, we have Spreading Spores. You gain the ability to seed an area with deadly spores. With a bonus action, while your Symbiotic Entity feature is active, so that's the alternate use for your wild shape,
Right.
You can hurl spores up to 30 feet away. They swirl in a 10-foot cube for 1 minute. The spores disappear early if you use the feature again, if you dismiss them as a bonus action, or if your Symbiotic Entity feature is no longer active. So like if the temporary hit point's broke and it causes it to end, it's going to also end this.
Mm-hmm.
When a creature moves into the cube or starts its turn there, it takes your Hail of Spores damage, and this creature succeeds a Constitution saving throw against a spell save. Creature can only take this damage once per turn, not per round. So that's something to keep in mind as well. If there's other ways to force creatures to move willingly or use their movement to move into it or things like that, there's other ways to trigger this on other players' turns, but they can only take it once per turn. While the cube persists, you can't use the Hail of Spores reaction. So you're either having the pool of spores floating around in their little miasma area, or you're using when you have creatures near you to use your reaction to expend it. One or the other, you don't get both. Something to keep in mind. Then lastly, at level 14, we have Fungal Body. You can't be blinded, deafened, frightened, or poisoned, and any critical hit against you is normal instead, unless you're incapacitated. So if you're hit while you're unconscious or incapacitated, it's still going to be taking the auto crits if they're within 5 feet.
Right. And
everything. So those are all the abilities gained in the subclass.
Yes.
And with that, we move into the role-playing portion of the rating section.
That's right.
And when we do this, I have to get the asterisk as always. When we talk about the roleplay value, we're talking about interacting with the world around you, interacting with NPCs, non-combat scenarios, non-combat encounters. Got there. We are not talking about acting out backstory, history, lore, fantasy, all that stuff. That is on you.
Around your fingers.
We're talking about the mechanics of these abilities gained in this particular subclass.
It's in the book. It matters. If it doesn't, it doesn't.
Looking at all the abilities gained in this subclass, there's a couple things that can definitely be used in RP sense. For example, some of the spells gained are actually pretty solid. Gaseous Form, while it can be used in combat, it can be used for escaping or chasing or things like that. You can use it to kind of like hide. You turn into gas and kind of go through cracks and you're kind of gone. So there's ways to use that out of combat. It's not really super useful in combat. It's more used for running away or hiding kind of thing. Gentle Repose lets you extend the duration of a corpse from rotting essentially, so you can revive them at a later point in time, stuff like that. And then Blindness, Deafness can definitely be used in RP scenarios as well. So there's definitely some good uses in the spells gained on here. And while some of them are going to be innate to the spellcasting class of the Druid, it's nice to have to not pick them up. You just kind of get them for free, which is always nice.
Absolutely.
Unfortunately, a lot of the other abilities are very primarily focused on the combat side of things. There could maybe be some niche uses for RP with the Fungal Infestation. I mean, technically, if you want to be like Murder Hoboy, you can go around and kill people pretty easily, like, and just make zombies and terrorize people. But that's probably not going to happen too often, and you only get so many limited uses for that.
Right.
But the rest, I mean, once you hit 14, the blinded, deafened, frightened, poisoned immunity essentially is potentially in some RP situations, especially if you're doing like drinking competitions, can't be poisoned, stuff like that. So there's definitely things that can be used in RP sense. So, but definitely very niche on the use on the RP side. So we just went with a 2 out of 5.
Yep.
So again, when we talk about this, most of the RP that's going to have to be done is going to have to be on you. Right. The abilities gained in subclass aren't going to really help you too much on the potential for your role playing. So more on you for that. Good luck.
On the combat side of things, as usual, if it's weaker on one side, most of the time it comes up a little higher on this side, and that's the case here as well. Halo Spores give you access to free damage by using just a reaction. If they're within range of you, there's no having to pop it X number of times per day. It doesn't take spell slots. It doesn't anything else. It's just free damage if you just use your reaction to somebody within close range of you. Then, of course, Symbiotic Entity gives you an extra use for your wild shape, which, if you're not playing Circle of the Moon Druid, your wild shape scales really, really slowly. Like, most of the time, you're going to be more RP-based uses with your wild shape.
Scouting or stuff like that.
Yeah, and traveling reasons, all that kind of stuff. So using it for this to double that damage from your Halo of Spores near you, plus your melee weapon attacks to an extra 1d6 poison damage, early on kind of gives you an interesting little tanky feel for doing this weird extra damage around you and bopping people on the head without having to use spell slots. So you can still save your spell slots for either for healing, for other crowd control spells, which druids are the absolute kings of. In terms of slowing and battlefield manipulation, stuff like that. Level 6 with the zombie spell, very interesting flavor-wise, but again, a regular good old-fashioned basic zombie is a CR quarter. Has a +3 to hit at level 6. Even that's not going to be super helpful as far as
it's not going to do pretty much anything.
It's something that can soak up a hit, and will be there. It is getting one guaranteed turn, because it does say it goes after your turn in combat. So the turn you do use it, it's going to get to go one turn for sure before somebody blows it up, most likely. So while interesting and very flavorful and fits in here, not super impactful on the combat side.
Right.
At 10, of course, being able to throw your spores away from you, just giving you the option to either have it on you personally or throwing somewhere else is great. Also, because while you throw it, it's not a very big area, which is not great because it's only a 10-foot cube. So you're talking about hitting one person at a time, maybe two. If two guys are standing next to each other where you throw it. But unlike with just the base Halo of Spores, it can hit multiple people in a round. Because the Halo of Spores only lets you use your reaction to do the damage, which you only do once per round. This is once per turn. So, if multiple people run through it for whatever reason or get knocked into it, that you can hit multiple people with it without having to spend your reaction to do it. Just use your bonus action to throw them out there. So again, just bonus action. So you still have your action to do whatever else you want to do with your turn. And finally, Fungal Body, just being immune to, there we go. Being immune to blinded, deafened, frightening, and poison. Not exciting things, but very helpful things.
For sure.
First thing Jameson brought up was like, almost all bigger dragons have a frightening roar, kind of frightening presence. Yeah. Blind and deafen their spells, any spellcasters that can cause problems there, and being immune to poison damage, and most importantly, as somebody who has faced his fair share of crits in his face, being able to negate crits on you,
it's pretty big.
Can be huge, especially if somebody were to crit a single target spell, and you're just like, nah.
Yeah.
It's again, nothing super exciting, but when it does happen, it's super, super impactful. So we went with a 3.5 out of a possible 5. So I did a lot of positive talking for just a 3.5.
Right. There's reason.
But there's reasons. And the biggest thing we talked about before is it kind of does this motion where it starts off and you get this nice little early peak at level 2. Then it kind of tapers off from 2. Because even at 6, you're not really getting anything exciting because the zombie abilities really not that good. Your damage does go up with Halo of Spores, but you're not doing anything really exciting until 10, when you can then throw your spores out somewhere, hit most people on a turn, and then at 14, where you get your, blindness, deafness thing. So there's kind of this little... It's like, ooh,
between 2 and 10, you're not really getting anything other than you're going to get a little bit of bonus to your spore damage. But even at that, it's like a D4 to D6. It has a potential, like if you roll a 4 or 6, you're only going to maximum, 2 damage difference. It's not like huge. The floor is the same. It's 1D whatever.
Yeah.
But the higher end is just a little bit more each time. So you're not really gaining a whole lot.
But between 2 and 10, really the only impactful thing you're getting is all of your circle spells are coming into play.
Right. It's kind of like you hit a pretty big spike at level 2 because you're getting these abilities, and you don't have to. I mean, Wild Shape is, unless you're, like you said, a Moon Druid, you're just not going to really be having a whole lot of reason to Wild Shape in combat very often.
Mm-hmm.
But that spike that you get from the spore damage is going to be pretty solid, especially if you take like Shillelagh or something, and you want to just focus on your spells. You can use your Wisdom. You're going to do a solid amount of damage until, once you hit like level 5 or so, then you switch to Primal Savagery, and you don't really get the melee attack bonus from the poison, but that's kind of where, like I'm saying, kind of from 2 to 5 is like, it's pretty solid, and you hit Primal Savagery, and this thing kind of gets a little bit less useful.
Yep.
Then you hit 6, and then you get the buff to the damage on the spores.
Yep.
So it's kind of like, you're kind of just spike, and you're kind of spiked really low.
Yeah.
And then you kind of taper out a little bit, and you get like a little spike here at 10 and 14 again.
Yeah.
So early on, it's actually really strong.
Yep.
But then, again, a big gap in the middle where it's kind of just like,
Yeah. Well, with the score said there, we'll move over to the class synergy side of things, where this one, I think, stands its strongest overall.
Sure. Definitely. So, as Alex mentioned already, the Druids are, I would say, probably most well known for their ability to control the battlefield. Mm-hmm. A lot of their
spells, at least in terms of spells, anyway. Yeah.
Right. Yeah. A lot of their spells are very influential on the flow of combat and the flow of the battlefield, making difficult terrain, making things hard to get to.
Yep.
People, just controlling wall of fire. I mean, there's lots of stuff that you can do.
Spike growth, erupting earth.
Yeah, you're having ways to put walls up. Put difficult spikes on the ground. There's lots of stuff that you can do to really manipulate everything. And a great thing to go along with that is another free ability that doesn't use a spell slot that you can repeatedly use, especially once you get to level 10. You can throw the spores out. You throw some difficult terrain down, you throw some spores out, you throw Cloud Kill down, and you move the spores with the Cloud Kill as a bonus action every turn. And then you have a wall of stone or something there to stop the cloud from continuing to move. So you're kind of getting people to sit in all of your stuff here. You can have some good synergy comboing your abilities and spells, for sure.
Yeah.
Even with that, you have your synergy between the Symbiotic Entity and the Spreading Spores. You're having alternate uses for your Wild Shape. There's a lot going on here on the synergy side.
Yep.
If you want to use Halo of Spores up close, you can go more melee. Mm-hmm. Or if you want to stay further away, you can use it as like another crowd control kind of thing. Mm-hmm. You can do that. So you have some versatility, synergy between a lot of the abilities. Even the Fungal Infestation, it's not super amazing, but even if you look at something like an Equinite, just having another body on the field that soaks up a hit can be really good.
Triggers a sneak attack for a rogue.
Right. There's things that it definitely has uses, but it's not going to be anything crazy. But sometimes just soaking a hit is all you need.
Yep.
So
plays a cleric.
All that to be said, we're kind of building up here to a 4.5 out of 5.
Yep.
Very solid, we believe, on the synergy side. And again, it is solid early on in the lower levels in combat. The RP is a little bit lacking, but overall, this subclass I feel like is actually pretty solid.
Yeah, it's very interesting for sure. But Circle of Spores Druid definitely fits like a theme of Druid, and for those of you that are familiar with the whole Magic the Gathering thing, like the picture and the thumbnail on here is definitely a Golgari mage. The whole black green setup, very thematic.
Oh yeah,
for that setup for sure.
But with that, guys, we're gonna wrap up the video on here. Remember to like, comment, subscribe, hit the bell notification so you know if you win the book. And also make sure you comment down below so that we draw from those comments to see if you're the winner. But if you guys have anything that you want to see from us, or you have any stories, always love to hear about that down below. And also, if you let us know, you're going to be entered in the contest. So there's that as well. So that's going to be all for today, guys. And as always, thanks for watching.